Let me start with you directly. We are seeing a more alarmist tone in some UK media outlets when it comes to Dubai. Would you say this is a fair observation or not?
Certainly is a fair observation. There has been a very alarmist, sensationalist tone to most of the UK coverage. But the way that British media in particular has covered this is, quite shocking. And I feel almost I'm having spent 20 years myself in British media before I came to Dubai. I feel quite ashamed, really, of some of the coverage.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Jamal Al Mullah from the UAE. This is Gulf Uncensored in collaboration with the Arab Strategic Forum. And the city abroad that the Gulf has been most historically linked to is London. London has long been the second home for every person from the Gulf. A deep and historical connection. The first exploratory missions to our region were from Britain. The first foreign political engagement was with London. The first oil companies that operated on our lands came from Britain, meaning from London. Our first educational missions went to London. Football reached us from London, and the first foreign radio station we connected with was BBC London. London and London, no matter what we say, we'll never finish. As for London's impact on the world, well, it goes without saying. London, uniquely, was where state borders were drafted. Ruling systems and political structures, Rothschild and global financing systems started from London. My friend, London is Shakespeare. London is Agatha Christie. London is literature, arts, and philosophy. London is also the one that fought the War of the Roses for 30 years and fought World War I and II and won both. London, the Great Fire and the Song. London is burning, get some water. London, the Great Plague that wiped out 2/3 of its population. London went through difficulties that almost no other city has faced throughout history. But every time it would rise and lead. It led the world for long centuries. But the most important things in London's history are two things. Adam Smith, when he decided to spread capitalism, started from London. And his opposite, Karl Marx, when he decided to spread communism, also started from London. London's relationship with money and investment is deep and historical, more than any other city in the world. And London's first weapon in financial leadership and leading the investment sector was the press. The London press, that fierce beast that everyone fears and takes into account. I've been an avid reader of everything written in the London press recently, and as an Emirati, I lived moments of pride and honour. These feelings that overwhelmed me while reading the prestigious London press, as it tries with all its might and all its history to strike at the Dubai financial model. Oh my. The Guardian, the Daily Mail, the Telegraph, the Independent. Leaving everything else aside and dedicating themselves entirely to casting doubt on the Dubai model, claiming that stability is now lost and that investment guarantees are gone, and that the Dubai experience has ended forever. Oh, London, write more and more. Defend your financial center against the fierce Dubai. Dubai, which shows no mercy to anyone. Fight the Dubai model, for which 12,000 British millionaires left London in all its greatness and went to Dubai with all its facilities. They went freely, by choice. Especially you, London, you're excused. London, which never looked west except to New York, nor east except to Shanghai, has been forced to stand in the middle and look towards Dubai. It's a historic moment for me as an Emirati citizen. I only fight battles with the heavyweights. I admit, I don't know if you'll understand me or not. But for me, it's a moment of national pride and a legitimate membership card in the big leagues. Historically, we know only one thing about London. That its ultimate weapons are the press and the media. All of London's weapons in changing the rules of professional competition. Clearly, they haven't achieved anything with Dubai. So London unleashed its nuclear weapon. The press and the media, oh beloved and great London. The construction of Dubai's financial model began while the war was just a few kilometers away during the First Gulf War. We were born economically in the middle of a volatile region. Economically, Dubai is not a child of luxury and calm conditions. Dubai is the child of difficulties, obstacles, and harsh conditions. Dubai, about which Mohammed bin Rashid said, will bring tourists here. They asked him, where? Where will tourists come in the middle of the desert? He said, tomorrow you'll see, and tomorrow came, and everyone saw. Clearly today it's London's turn to see. Watch London and see that this country, with God's help, is capable of repelling aggression and continuing its development. We now turn to the British journalist and author Frank Kane. Frank Kane, how are you doing? And glad to have you here.
Hi, Jamal. I'm pleased to be on. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Let me start with you directly. We are seeing a more alarmist tone in some UK media outlets when it comes to Dubai. Would you say this is a fair observation or not?
Oh, I think it certainly is a fair observation. There has been a very alarmist, sensationalist tone to most of the UK coverage. But the way that British media in particular has covered this is, quite shocking. And I feel almost I'm having spent 20 years myself in British media before I came to Dubai. I feel quite ashamed, really, of some of the coverage, and I almost feel like apologising on behalf of the UK to my Emirati friends. It really has been shocking and alarming. As we all know here, there are challenges, but there is no collapse. I'm sure that we will talk about tourism, real estate, trade, all those kinds of things. But the core infrastructure and the financial system, etc., is intact. So it's kind of a shock of confidence. Certainly not the structural breakdown that's being portrayed in the West.
Mm. Are they trying to shape a certain perception, a negative perception of Dubai, or what?
I don't think it's a conspiracy by the British media. I think it's a kind of subconscious consensus that they've reached. I wrote a column recently talking about the power of the news editor in UK media. You know, the man who assigns journalists to cover stories, sends correspondents here to cover the story, and he will give that journalist the basic headline of the story before he even gets here. I was speaking to a UK tabloid reporter just last week who said he was told, to find panic. He couldn't find any. So his news editor said, "Well, just go and find it. We're not running anything without panic. We want panic." And that's kind of the mindset. It's not a conspiracy, but there are reasons for it, and we'll talk about those. But certainly, I agree wholeheartedly that a lot of the coverage has been. UK isn't going through a particularly pleasant phase at the moment, politically, economically, socially. We all know about the problems here. We've all read about them. The economy is kind of languishing. There are social problems. There is a lot of street crime, which has been, heavily described. And many British people have voted with their feet, over the years, and they have come to Dubai, and they've taken their capital with them. But I think longer term, serious investors, they look at returns and stability rather than headlines. So, that's Dubai's job now, is to show that the returns and stability will be back.
So, those names, when we talk about Guardians, Telegraph, BBC, and others, they have legacy. They are huge. Why are they doing this to us?
Certainly, you've picked out some of the worst offenders there. The Guardian. I worked at the Guardian in the 1990s on the business desk there, and I can tell you there is a mindset of resentment towards people who are successful. They call it the tall poppy syndrome. You go around, you find the tallest poppy plant in the field, and you cut its head off. Its head off. So anybody or any country who makes it will be the subject of this kind of resentment. to go back to the kind of newsroom where this coverage originates, there is a herd behavior there. Once one goes in a certain direction, all the rest will follow. And you mentioned The Guardian. The Guardian was very upfront from the very beginning that its coverage here, was not about security, not about energy, not trade, any of these things. It was about expat influencers who they resented and who they wanted to get, and then all the others followed suit. If I could pick out one, and this is a huge legacy organisation in the UK, the Financial Times. It has largely given Dubai a fair crack of the whip. But most of the others, if I can single out a bad one, I would say the Daily Mail, which I don't know if you saw last week, the front page of the Daily Mail. It was really shocking bit of journalism. Call it journalism if you like, but it had a picture of the Burj Khalifa, a normal stock picture on one side of the page. And then on the other side of the page, it had a picture of a drone attack on a tower block in Bahrain, with a big explosion coming out.
Yes.
And, the headline was, "The Dubai Dream is Dead." But the implication was that the Burj Khalifa was going to be attacked by drones any moment and blow up in the air. It really was a disgraceful bit of journalism. So that's the kind of thing you have to deal with. And the correspondents who come here, they are often embarrassed, when they find that there is no panic and the Burj Khalifa is not on fire. But then they file their story. It goes back to London to the newsroom, and it gets sensationalized, and the wrong pictures put there.
How do you see the situation? How do you read what's happening now in Dubai, in the Middle East? What's your message?
Okay, well, I felt no real sense of imminent danger from attack, and that's mainly because of the incredible work of the UAE defences. This very, very high success rate that they have. So I feel pretty safe. You'd have to be very unlucky for a piece of drone or missile to land on your head from debris. So I feel safe in that respect. I do feel a little worried about the economic future. And, I think the immediate job for Dubai and for the authorities and the UAE is to reassure people and to inspire confidence, that this will go away. Of course, a lot of that is outside the control of Dubai. But it has to message, that there is strength because the economy has had a very strong 4 years since COVID, 5 years since COVID almost. And, it has resilience. And I think that has to be the basic message. Dubai has been in this place before.
Yes.
The global financial crisis, COVID, of course. And on both these occasions, Dubai has turned it to its advantage. I mean, I go back even further. Not that I was here at the time, but in the 1990s, at the end of the Iran-Iraq War, that led to the establishment of Dry Docks Dubai and the ship repairing industry in this country. Because they were repairing tankers that had been attacked in the Gulf. After the global financial crisis, which was a serious thing, I lived through this and I reported on it. Dubai took that opportunity to basically streamline its banking system, to get debt under control, and to that was the moment when DIFC took off as the great force it is now, the leading financial marketplace in the region. So similarly, post COVID, Dubai turned that to its advantage too. It encouraged people to come back by giving them golden visas. by allowing them to work remotely here, all sorts of things, which then led to the population boom that we've seen over the past few years and the economic boom. So, this is a shock, but it's a shock that can be dealt with and can be ameliorated.
Yeah. What is the difference between London's model and Dubai's model?
It is incredibly different. I mean, London, centuries old economy, the first industrial economy going back to the 19th century. It has traditionally been a center of global finance, although it's losing that position now, mainly because of competition from other big financial centers, New York, of course, and even the likes of Dubai. I mentioned the capital flight that has come from the UK to Dubai in the form of investments here by high net worth individuals who have taken their money with them. I mean, in terms of economic model, both are diversified economies. They don't rely on a single commodity. Dubai does not rely on oil anymore. And London is also diversified. I would say that the basic message, though, between the two economic models is that Dubai is on the way up and London is on the way down.
Is there any solution for London? Is there any advice to them?
Okay, my personal advice would be to forget about Brexit and renegotiate entry into the European Union at the earliest opportunity, because we are seeing the world becoming more and more polarized, and people are being forced to take sides. And with America the way it is now, many people in the world do not regard the United States as a trustworthy partner. I think London should take that as its conclusion. The USA is not to be trusted, despite the special relationship that they talk about. I mean, certainly under the present administration, I don't think the UAE can be trusted, and therefore, I believe the UK should do its best to get back into the European Union. I mean, that's my view. So there you have the difference between the two.
Frank Kane, honored to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamal. It's been a pleasure. Nice to speak to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We now turn to my guest for this episode, Mr. Manos Krani, a journalist and media professional who's worked at CNBC, Bloomberg, and The National.
Glad to have you here, Mr. Krani.
Jamal, good evening. Thanks for inviting me.
What's happening there? I mean, it seems like certain British media outlets are aligned against Dubai.
I think as an Irish man who's lived in the United Kingdom for 30 years, I just want to sort of like qualify, who I am and why I have a perspective. I've rarely listened to or read such vitriolic commentary about the United Arab Emirates. I've been coming here since 1994. I've done business in this country since 1994. I've come back in different, I suppose, in different guises. I think you need to take the story back to COVID, around that period of time. I was living here. I was working for another news organization, Bloomberg, and I think a lot of this vitriol goes back to that period of time, which is when Dubai was open. We were able to live quite freely here quite quickly. We had our vaccines, and there was that level of angst, I would say, that there was this lifestyle 8 hours away in the sun, March, April, June. So I think the anger began to build then. I think here we are now. We are in a global, situation of where, what is it, retribution or media retribution is served. And Jamal, you've got to accept, and I would say this is there's in theory 240,000 British nationals living and working in Dubai. I'd say to you, how many of them are influencers? Because I think the bile and the kind of aggression is towards those people who propagate that life in the sun. I'm a crypto bro. I'm an influencer. None of those things are true of me and my lifestyle here. But I think if that's the imagery that's being pumped back to the United Kingdom, then there's going to be a certain level of angst thrown back. And don't forget, the papers were full of 15,000, 16,000 millionaires leave the United Kingdom, and that drumbeat infuriates the media.
So is it because of Dubai's success is taking over London position?
Look, let me be very clear. I grew up in London. I went there when I was 21. I left there when I was 50. London has not lost its crown as being one of the most phenomenal cultural banking centers of the world. They might just need to rebrand it a bit harder and a bit more aggressively. I went there in 1989 because it was the place to go. Banking, finance, get a job in Throgmorton Street. That's what I did. And that is what Dubai has offered a great deal of people. It wasn't as perhaps full on in 2016 when I came here to set up the Bloomberg TV network, but it was an opportunity. And when you came here, you were welcomed. And if you stayed beyond 2 years, the Emiratis, your national men and women have a great way of then saying, okay, you're not just a stamper for 2 years, you're kind of committed here for a life and a lifestyle. So I don't think London has lost. I think Dubai and the nexus of capital, human capital and capital, pivoted and changed. In the 2 years, I went to live in New York in 2023. I came back at the end of last year. There was a sea change of capital, human capital and international capital that shifted in those 2 years.
So, from your perspective as a geoeconomic expert, what do you see? I mean, is this going to be this crisis going to continue? Can the Gulf states recover fast, or what is going to happen?
I think anybody who joins you on your show and they pretend to sit here and say, I know exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to play out, I think maybe you'd want to be wary about inviting them back. I don't think anybody quite has a quantum. On when this war will end, how it will end, what's your relationship, the United Arab Emirates, along with Saudi Arabia, along with Qatar, and its relationship with Iran. Okay, it's not as if we all arrived here and we didn't know Iran was 40 miles, across the waterway. It's about what is the resolution, what is the relationship with the United States of America going to be from a security point of view, and what is this neighborhood like after this war ends? If you ask me, over the past 24 hours, we've gone into a serious recalibration and an inflection point in this war, because this is about Iran, Israel hitting Iran hitting Qatar, the installations of oil and energy, and likewise, it seems to be just at an escalatory moment. So there's an asymmetry to this war at the moment. And anybody that comes on this show and they can say to you with absolute certainty that, we're going to bounce back like that, it's only going to be a couple of months, I take that with a bit of a pinch of salt. But you are lining up both leaders, federal ministers, the central bank, the leaders of Dubai and Abu Dhabi in terms of plans to ensure that the pillars for bounce back are in place.
Okay, Mr. Manos, back to London. What do you think that London should learn from Dubai? I mean, Dubai's model.
London has probably one of the longest histories in banking, finance, culture, theatre, ballet. It's not a question of what can London learn from Dubai or Dubai from London. Dubai has a great habit of choosing the parts of the world's business and infrastructure that they want to wrap their arms around. I think where you're going with this is that, the paper headlines are about 16,500 millionaires leave the United Kingdom and, they go to different countries. A lot of them came here because it was made easy to come, get a golden visa, they settle, and they have a very, very easy entry. Not everybody who comes here is a multi-millionaire. And we need to be really careful about how we position this whole argument about London and Dubai, or the United Kingdom and Dubai. Not everybody who comes here is a multi-millionaire or indeed a billionaire. There are very few billionaires who exit the United Kingdom for any destination, whether it's Switzerland, Monaco, or indeed Dubai. Okay, there's a lot of people who come here, and I want to put this into context. There are many, many people who come here because it's a great opportunity. It was for me in 2016. It was an amazing opportunity to come and set up a project for an international news organization. Many of my friends that have come here, and they see it as an opportunity. When I left Ireland and I went to the United Kingdom and I went to London and I went to the city of London, it's because there was a phenomenal opportunity. If you want people to set up businesses and to consider where they place their lives, then create an infrastructure, and it's not all about tax. Create an infrastructure, create a society, create an economy, create a basis upon which there is a desire to grow and a hunger to grow. And I don't know that's as furiously wild in the city of London as it was when I went there in 1989, nor when I left there in 2016 on the morning of Brexit, I should add.
Last August, I was in London and I
Mhm.
was walking in the Hyde Park and I got trapped. I mean, my iPhone was just gone in a second. I mean, safety.
Safety is incredibly important here, but again, I'll see you in radio. I was in London 4 times last year. I was not mugged. Did not have my phone stolen. I was not pushed or shoved by anybody. So I really want to be very clear about this. There is crime in every city in the world. The headlines, this is what headlines that grabs headlines. There's gangs of kids stealing phones. Yes, they are. Yes, it's tough. People at home in London say, it is getting tough, etc., on the security front. And part of the reason why so many people decided to pack up their bags and come and live here is you can leave your phone down at the cafe. You can walk around. Women can walk at home at night quite safely and quite easily. Law and order are an incredibly important facet of any city, and I would put it to you that would be a huge issue when it comes to the mayoral race in the United Kingdom, in London, I should say.
So do you think London and Dubai is a same level in safety term?
I don't know that you can be just as purist as that. Look, if you go by the headlines,
I mean, there are statistics and numbers.
If you go by the headlines and statistics, then I would say to you the approved statistics that are available in the United Kingdom would say that the UK and London is perhaps less safe. However, what I would say to you is, well, are you trying to tell me that there's absolutely no misdemeanors or crimes in Dubai or the UAE? That's not exactly on the button now, is it?
Mr. Manus, you worked with famous media outlets, CNBC, Bloomberg, and others. Do you think they follow any agenda?
The one thing, look, each brand has a very different alpha and a very different driver. So let's be very clear about what global media is. Rupert Murdoch has has a particular agenda. The Wall Street Journal is owned by somebody. It has an agenda. The New York Times, etc. Billionaires tend to buy media assets, perhaps when they become very wealthy. The one thing I would say about Bloomberg, and I will say this, you may have an opinion, but that opinion is based on fact. There is no skew. The stories that are produced at Bloomberg are of the highest quality, the highest sourcing, and there is nobody sitting over me in the 15 years that I was there as an anchor, reporter, editor, and journalist. There was never once where anybody pushed me to skew an interview with the Iranian foreign minister, with British politicians during Brexit, with various billionaires who I interviewed. I would say to you, I worked in London, New York, and the Middle East, and at no juncture in those 15 years did anybody take me into a room and say, "This is what I want you to do with this interview." So I would challenge that view that sits out there. I'm proud to have worked for Bloomberg. I'm very proud to have worked for CNBC International in London. I think CNBC love a little bit more drama in terms of, can they shake up the audience? That was the raison d'etre there. No, Bloomberg is something different. And the National is something that I chose to return to the UAE to join. Mina Al-Arabi is the editor-in-chief there. She's a tour de force. It's a great newsroom. It's young. I get to explore many different facets of what I've built over the years. I've launched my own podcast, not as well watched as your own, but it is let's have a shameless plug. It is the Inside Brief at the National. And it gives me freedom to talk to leaders from the United Arab Emirates, along with global economists and global voices, about what they think in terms of capital, human capital, and risk in this region and beyond.
Mr. Krani, glad to have you here. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.
Jamal, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you to all our viewers and listeners. Always follow us on social media at arabcast.ae and stay tuned for more on Gulf Uncensored with your host, Jamal Al-Mullah.